that I've been playing.
Enjoy your beers.
Yep.
Enjoy your iPhones.
Yeah, I just got an iPhone.
Setting it to airplane mode right now.
Hey, you just played a small gig here at the radio station. Last time we met was at the Lowlands Festival. Album wasn't out yet. Album is out now.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been pretty exciting. Like, it's good to finally have it out there and people, being able to have the album to take home and, hopefully know the words a bit and know the songs a bit better and stuff. It really helps us out live, so it's good.
How are the reactions so far?
They've been great, yeah. Everyone's been very cool about it. Actually, here in Holland, the record charted, which was really exciting. It's the only place outside the United Kingdom where the record was in the chart, so that's really exciting to hear.
Yeah.
I think it was in the alternative chart, was in like the top 10, which was really cool for a little while, and so that's really nice to think that like people in Holland are buying our records and stuff.
All the critical response has been really cool. We had some good stuff from the press and some good reviews and things like that, and then so far when we've been touring in places where the album's been released, it's been really positive reaction from the crowds and stuff. Crazy things like we never kind of expected to hear everyone singing along the words to our songs and things like that, and it's really exciting to see that.
Things went really fast for you guys, right? I mean, there was a hype after only one single release, video on YouTube, which was watched like millions of times, and I just saw your Facebook page, which has over 35,000 friends. I mean, doesn't it pressure you to release your album sooner than you actually did?
That album actually, took so long to arrive. We started recording it last February, and we were so busy touring in Europe that we were recording in America, and we'd do kind of 10 days, and then we'd fly back over here, do some more touring, fly back, do another 10 days. So it took ages. We finished it in August, and then it took until March for the record to come out. So it had been over a year since we started the recordings, and even then the songs were a year old, or 2 years old by the time we started recording the album. So it really did take a long time to come.
Yeah, it felt like these songs are pretty old to us now. It's almost like we're almost forgetting about them and wanting to move on to new stuff. But no, it's kind of, we wanted to make sure it was perfect and that timed perfectly and stuff like that. And in terms of all the pressure from the press and things like this, we just kind of tried to ignore it. We always focus on what we're doing, each day, what the show we're playing. For us, it's more about the live show. I think we're really focused on making sure that's at the top of it, the best it can be. And recording the album was kind of just like, okay, I guess we better, we have to record something. So we finally got down and did that. And so yeah, I think we just try and ignore all the pressure the best we can. And
I was thinking two things actually. A, these guys have been playing for 10 years plus, so they can wait another year.
I think that's true. Yeah. We've been in touring bands, in various bands, for more than 10 years, and since we were kids. And so for us, it feels like it's been a very slow increment, over a number of years. And even, we actually first went full time. We did a publishing deal, and like 2 years ago now, or something, probably.
3 years ago.
And then we just started to tour all the time, and then we did a record deal, and we just carried on touring solidly. And people almost didn't notice. So for some people, it seems as though we arrived out of nowhere and it's suddenly like, who's this band trying to do? But we've been touring for 2 years or something before any of that happened. So for us, it feels much more like little steps, kind of gradual.
Second thing I was thinking is now you finally released this album. You got to tour it for at least 2 more years.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. But luckily we enjoy playing the live shows so much that we're quite happy to just keep doing that, and we just want to get back out there on the road and play as many shows as we can, and that's what we have been doing this year. I think we've just been out there. We've been on the tour for the last 2 months and starting to hit America a little bit and doing some tours out there, which has been really exciting. So
I think as well, you're never too good to learn. We're constantly, I think we get better at playing our songs every day. We just did this tour of America, and we were in very small rooms again, like going back to playing much smaller venues and much less pressure on us because people didn't know us. We were supporting other bands, and so I think then that gave us a chance to kind of readdress the live show and just make sure nothing's slipping, and just kind of and I think I always feel every 6 months or so I think we're better now than we were 6 months ago.
That little bit tighter, don't you? The more touring you do, and things like little things that you didn't really think about before, like the talking that we do between the songs on stage. I feel like I was always really nervous before and kind of like, oh, hello, whereas now we're kind of, hopefully we're getting a bit more confident and things like that. It's just little changes that come over time.
How's your music going down in the States, actually? Because I can imagine it will go down really, really well because it has a focus touch to it. And bands like Band of Horses, I mean, you can't compare you guys to Band of Horses, but I mean, they're big and Ray LaMontagne is big, so I can imagine you guys selling 1 million records in the States and going in opera.
I hope so, yeah.
Fingers crossed. I mean, the record only just came out in the States. I think it did okay.
The reaction's been pretty good, yeah. And actually, when we were touring out there, we had really positive responses from crowds and stuff. I think they, almost because we're playing sort of Americana-style music, which they kind of recognise, but then they see us come and be like, right, yeah, we're from England. They kind of automatically, they think that's kind of fun and cool, and you can kind of win them over just by saying hello because they're like, oh, he's got an accent. Oh, that's so cool, so cool. So we kind of have an unfair advantage over there, I think. But yeah, it was really positive, and the crowd seemed to really eat it up. So it's a good sign for the next.
You guys played South by Southwest, 6 gigs without a drummer.
Yeah, not this year, but last year, the first time we did South by Southwest, his visa didn't come through in time. Ours all did. He couldn't make it out there. We even had to wait till the morning of the flight, basically, when our visas came through on the day, and we went straight to the airport. His didn't come through, got delayed or whatever.
You had to wait basically by the post box, like waiting for the letter to come through, and it finally came about 6 days later. But we kind of managed to just about muddle through South by. We kind of did improvised sets where we played. The first one we just played with no drums and just pretended he was there, and it kind of felt really weird. And then for another one, like Peter and Matt, the two guitarists, kind of switched between playing guitar and playing like a snare and a tom, while they were singing at the same time. So the whole thing was just an absolute shambles. But it was good. This year we finally got to go back with the full band and played some real shows down there. And I think we hopefully showed people what we really like.
Hey, the album is also released on vinyl.
Yeah, cool.
That made me think about the whole process, and even like doing interviews with bands. I've been doing interviews for 15 years at least, and normally you would talk about an album like the first song is this, it's the opening track, and then you have to turn the record around, and then, But nowadays it's totally different because you just listen on Spotify, you skip through the record, you don't even know what the real chronological order is, and what the artwork is about, how does it feel, what does it look like, who did it. Being a band, it must be weird to release an album nowadays in several aspects.
Yeah, definitely. I always find that the whole digital thing, especially with people picking and choosing certain songs, they won't even download the full record, they maybe pick 2-3 songs. It's kind of a really weird thing for me because I grew up where I would buy an album and listen to the full album, from start to finish, and I wanted to kind of listen to it the way that the band intended it to be listened to, whereas now you can't really expect people to do that.
But do you guys still work like that? Do you make a track list from A to Z, for instance?
Yeah, I mean,
we were really conscious of it, the fact that it was going to be pressed to vinyl. I think we knew that from right at the outset that we wanted it to end up that way, and we spent a long time on the track listing and.
But also on the financial side of things, you talked about signing a publishing deal first, then a record deal. Do you as a band still think about that? I mean, how do you guys actually make money, especially by playing live, right?
We don't really make any money.
There's no money.
There's no news there.
We're a not-for-profit charity, scraping a living. No, I mean, it's okay at the moment. I don't. Yeah,
I think records. I don't think we make much, but
I think right now the record label are probably making a loss in the hope that one day they might make a profit. Which is we're lucky that RCA have taken a punt on us. They said when we started to work with them, it may be a slow start because guitar music, especially guitar, it's not like poppy upbeat music. It's quite kind of melancholy in places. It's quite challenging, and they said, but so the first record may not sell 1 million copies, but if it doesn't, that's fine. We're gonna build it slowly, and I think some people are generally kind of a bit disparaging of major labels, and they might say, majors are the big bad the big bad guys, and then there are the kind of small indies doing whatever. But to be fair, it's like reassuring that majors have the financial backing to say we're going to take a band who aren't immediately going to have massive commercial success, and we're going to invest in them, and we'll see if over time we can, which is a luxury that other labels might not have. So there hasn't really been much pressure on us to be.
I think the label these days, they know that they can't necessarily make that much money out of just record sales alone. So now they get involved with other things. They started taking like a percentage of some of the live, so they can help us out. They help us out with touring and help us pay for like the van hire and things like this, so we can do more extensive touring. But in return, obviously, we give them a small percentage of our live fees or merchandise and things like that. So they've kind of diversified their way that they can make money, I guess, so that hopefully we don't lose them a huge ton of money, and it works kind of in our favour because it means we get to travel further afield than we would have been able to before and stuff.
You guys still like touring actually, because you did shitloads of touring.
We've done a lot, yeah. We've done for the last 2.5 years. We've pretty much like 10 months out of every 12, maybe even more, maybe 11 months out of every 12, I'd say. If you averaged it out, we've been on the road. But I still love it. It's so much fun, just playing in front of crowds, and we go out and party every night after the show. And
you still do that too, actually.
Still just about. I'm starting to worry about my my belly coming on, but apart from that, yeah, we still, because this is kind of, we're getting the opportunity to like live. I was a kid, I grew up, my dream was to play in a touring band, and it was all of our dream to get to do this. So the fact that we can get to do this now as our day job, it's kind of the dream, so we want to celebrate that every day. So we go out and celebrate it, every night after the show. And
you played London yesterday, right? Or the day before yesterday? Was it the Electric Ballroom?
Yeah, that was our last headline show of the UK tour. Yeah, it was pretty crazy. Yeah, it was the biggest headline we've done so far. I think it was 1,200 people or something, and it was sold out in London. And yeah, it was just, the crowd were just amazing, and people singing the words and stuff. Like I say, like something really cool that we never really thought about before.
People like our management were there and stuff, and they've been with us since the beginning when we were selling out. We couldn't sell out 100 capacity, and they said, one of our managers was saying to me, I just thought, who are all these people? Like where did all these people come from? How are there 1,000 people or 1,200 people here to see Dry the River? It's been like occasionally you have these moments where you're like, that's pretty crazy actually. Yeah, it's cool.
Really cool.
Well, you guys must be really proud as well, because you came a long way.
Yeah, we've worked hard for this, like you said, we've been doing this. I was 10 years old when I joined my first band, and did it all through school and through college and different bands, and then I started working after university, and thought, I need to continue doing this playing in bands thing, because it's just for a hobby. We did it because we loved it. It was never about kind of being able to make any money from it. And finally,
some bands, they come from nowhere and they like just get signed and they're really lucky, but you don't have the same appreciation. Whereas we had day jobs and we were kind of mid-20s by the time we got signed or whatever. And I think that just we just feel like really lucky. I think that's like the overwhelming thing, is like we feel it's so difficult to be able to have a career in music at the moment. This may all disintegrate next year or whatever. You just don't know, and so we just feel like really
appreciate it while you can.
You're on a small tour right now, right? You're playing a couple of gigs in Holland. You've been here before. You played the festivals. What will happen next for you guys?
Promoting more touring? Yeah, just more touring. We're here. We're doing this tour of Holland and a couple of other shows around Europe.
We get booked for at least 20 festivals, I read.
Yeah, something like 20 so far.
That's pretty impressive too.
Yeah, and then back into the festival season for the whole summer. We'll be doing some of them are in the UK, some of them are in Europe, some of them are in the US for the first time. We've never done any US festivals, but we've got a couple out there which we're really excited about. And then after that, after the summer, we'll be back touring again, just constant tour. That's what we love to do.
And I hope we're going to start making another album. I've started to write, and we're going to start. I think we're going to take a week, maybe June, and start working on it, the new material as a band, and to maybe get some demos together or something, and then.
First album is just out for like at least a month, folks. So they're working on their album already.
Well, for us it's 4 years old now, so we're ready to. But and I think we'd like the next record out early next year. So we want to keep giving people new material and keep.
Well, the golden rule in the record company industry is like you've got your whole life as a band to write your first album, and then you get like a year to write the second. But it seems to me that you guys already wrote the second. Is that true?
Well, we're taking, there's bands like Bombay Bicycle Club. They did their first record, and by the time they finished it, they'd basically recorded the first half of their second record or whatever. And I don't think that's done them any harm. I think we're the sort of band who are fairly, we're happy to. It's not an effort for us to write music. We really enjoy it. It's something I'm doing constantly anyway. I don't feel like they have to shut me in a room and force me to write an album. Whenever we need an album, we'll have one, I think, and that's kind of cool.
What will it be like? Same vibe? Same style, maybe.
I've heard a couple of the songs that Peter's written so far, 'cause he's sort of tinkering around with ideas and stuff. He sort of tells me, oh, it's going to be completely different, but from what I've heard, it's pretty similar sort of stuff.
It will always sound like Dry the River because it has the 5 members of Dry the River in it, which is a start. Our 3 voices will be in it, and the same, but there'll also be some discernible differences. I think we've grown a lot, like just after doing 200 to 300 shows since we, wrote the last round of songs. So like we're probably a bit more proficient, and I just have a better idea of like, what our strengths and weaknesses are and whatever. And I think hopefully I'd like the record to be a bit more rock, than the last record.
Slightly closer maybe to the live show, because with the first album we tried to sort of make it a separate endeavour to the live performance, because the lives kind of goes slightly more, I don't know, more rock, more visceral, kind of, we throw our hair around and rock out a little bit. On the album, the first album, we kind of kept it slightly more restrained to allow for like more instrumentation and things like that to be added and kind of make it more grandeur. But
well, sort of southern rock and like blues and stuff, and but like modern bands, I mean, I really love Jack White's new record. He has a lot of kind of soul and like southern rock in there. And we toured with Alabama Shakes, and they have this real kind of energy and like real nice kind of bluesy guitar licks and stuff. And that sort of stuff is very cool. And there's kind of all kinds. Matt as well, our guitarist, is very into his kind of like Americana and has been introducing me to all kinds of new stuff. And we did this kind of. We just did this 9,000-mile tour of the US in an RV, and we hired a 40-foot RV and we lived in it and we toured all around the US. So I think we really got to listen to all kinds of music and really experience it. And I feel like that's going to have. I was sitting in the back of the RV in Texas, like writing songs and stuff. I feel like that might have an influence on the record too. So
that may have been spacious after living in a closet in Stratford for a couple of years.
It was so nice. Yeah, we all immediately said, I don't want to go home. This is so much nicer than my house. I just want to move into that, and live there. It was awesome.
Again, in 2 weeks' time, we fly back to the US. We're doing another 2 weeks of touring in an RV again. So
we loved it so much. We want to do it more.
Did you ever hear of this band called Radio Moscow?
Radio Moscow, yeah, it rings a bell.
Yeah, I can't think of where I know them from.
So they're really rocky as well. Hey, so touring. One more thing about the album. Who did the artwork actually?
It's a guy called David Lupton, who's a friend of ours from London, and he does kind of mostly like horror artwork and fairly dark like kind of artwork. And we'd seen his work and we really liked it, and he had this idea. He was kind of saying, your music has these folk elements to it and kind of very pastoral kind of, it's like quite.
So here's a shark.
Yeah, but he was saying it's kind of rustic and stuff in places, but also there's this darker element, and it's kind of has kind of whatever. So we did a whole series of artworks for all of the EPs, singles before the album. He did all of the artwork, and he said, I'm going to do this series which is animals, and which is kind of like representing your folky kind of aspect and nature and stuff, but then also I'm going to make them a bit darker so that we're also introducing this other element of your music. So we ended up with like pictures of horses running through cities all kind of distressed, and birds attacking bulls and things like that, and there's kind of to try and give it. And then we'd done this series of images, the horses and the bulls, and we did dogs and birds and
stuff,
stags.
Deer.
And then we were like, where can we go from here for the album art? And then he had this idea of like the ultimate predator is a shark.
Yeah, we kind of sharks kind of like our favourite. It's the scariest animal there is. So and we were like, what's the coolest one that we can have finally on the album itself? So we got that put on there. And then actually, when you open up the vinyl, there's a full print of all of the single artworks sort of stitched together into one long picture. So it's really cool.
Hey guys, thank you very much, and enjoy your tour, and can't wait for the second album.
Cool, thanks man.